I love a good documentary. I love a good docuseries. And after watching this one, it took a while to really digest everything that occurred. Nonetheless, I'm here to give you my review. And that's the review of the new docuseries Cult Massacre: One Day in Jonestown. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the new series Cult Massacre: One Day in Jonestown, available right now on Hulu. So I did get a chance to check this out early, and yes, I know it's available now, but I gotta be honest, man, it took me a while to kind of really digest everything that had occurred in this. And I'd be the first to be honest here, is to say that, like, I had never heard of this. And I asked a few folks about it, and they was like, "Oh yeah, it's horrific. The complete nature of everything that's involved. Like, you know, the opinion I got from it was that folks were almost unwilling to want to watch this because just how horrific the events was." And so obviously my job in terms of being a critic and reviewing, you know, movies and television is like I had to dive in anyway. And first of all, it's a fantastic, in terms of production, the commentary, the footage and everything involved, the news all being involved, coming together to tell this docuseries. It's fantastic. And it is brought to you from the acclaimed franchise One Day in America. Now this is the third installment here. But man, just really like understanding what happened. It's jaw-dropping to know that this occurred like in real life. You know what I mean? But it's 3 episodes. They're all about an hour each. Again, available on Hulu right now. So with this, and in this docuseries, you're getting interviews from the survivors of the Jonestown Massacre. And this mass casualty event left 918 people dead. Do you want me to break that down for you all? That's 153 men, 452 women, 302 children, and 2 unidentified, with about 80-ish survivors. But what? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, and you know, the fact that like this happened in Guyana, and this is because you had this idealistic religious organization led by the infamous Jim Jones, which is where the Jonestown name came from, which is something I put together kind of late in watching this. But like understanding that like this one guy really was establishing a cult, and the nature of this cult, hearing his audio and the commands and things he was telling the folks, and everything to the end, which I'll talk about in a second. He wants to, you know, there was this idea that this was like a utopian community in Guyana, but it was completely opposite. This was hell on earth, especially because of how he ran it. And in this is told again by survivors, eyewitnesses, along with rare footage and rare Jim Jones recordings. So like they did their diligence in bringing this all together in terms of the production and whatnot. This is also considered the largest mass suicide in American history, but now ultimately recognized as a mass murder. So this horrific experience for the survivors, and just them coming together after surviving, providing these interviews, and even to the point that they even had to go back to the site and like identify the bodies. But like now that these folks are a part of this docuseries and having to recount these events, I mean, what bravery, what courage to go back into which, you know, these folks, they lost family, friends, and barely survived themselves, and they have to really come back to retell this story and take their mind back to it. I mean, it's heartbreaking, it's heart-wrenching here. So I just think that in this, if you never heard the story, you're in for something. You're really in for something. And beyond just the past events, it also focuses on these survivors and how they have to adjust back into society. And something else I learned, which I was completely ignorant to. If you ever heard the term drinking the Kool-Aid, and it's not something I've ever said. I because I didn't understand it, but I've heard it plenty of times, and even in historical events, interviews, and whatnot, and all sorts of different things. They will show you footage of in terms of how this phrase was kind of used in terms of like society and pop culture, but they really do explain like the context of that statement, and it's horrific. And because this is out, I can actually dive into this a little bit, but with everything that was happening with Jim Jones, he knew it was only a matter of time before the folks in Guyana was going to come back in terms of really the military coming there to really shut everything down, and they were going to shut it down by any means necessary. And so for him, he felt like this was like some angelic calling or whatever, come to terms with God in order for everybody to drink this poison that would ultimately lead them to wherever. I don't know, but nonetheless, the poison did kill all of these folks, and I mean kids, women, everybody, as I list the statistics and whatnot. But with that, because not only was this a component of everything that happened, like there was a U.S. representative, Leo Ryan, and his crew. They came, and obviously they came for reasons, but he had them attacked, and yet they were murdered, and that not only was just a very treacherous thing to do, but like it brought world attention. So this also brought the government of Guyana and also the U.S. government in terms of like, we got to shut this down. We got to go get him. And so because of his way of cowardness, he tells everybody to drink the Kool-Aid, which happens to be poison, and they die. Of course, he didn't do it because he's a coward. You know what I mean? So like with all of that, like again, you're getting like never before seen footage, and you're hearing audios and testimonies by his son too as well, who did not like him, by the way. But so like you're getting it, and it's so raw and it's horrific because you're seeing especially some of the aerial shots where they're showing you Jonestown, and you're seeing all of this what looks like clothing on the ground, and it's this hundreds of bodies, and it really will break you down because you just can't imagine something like this ever happened in history. And like, yes, we've had some very dark times in history, but the fact that like this was the thing that happened, and so after time, after World War II and everything with that, and the fact that this happened in such a more recent, because this goes back to this goes back to the late 70s, 1978 to be exact. And the fact that happened in such recent history, it's just unthinkable. But Jim Jones, who is the founder of the People's Temple, which is the sort of just organization he put together in Jonestown. He might as well have been the devil on earth. You just couldn't imagine somebody that promised these folks this, and they thinking they're in a utopian community, and he was just really just setting these people up for a disaster, and it's just a sad story. But I can say so much more, but it is available now. I didn't want to get too deep into spoilers, but just know for the 3 parts, it gets deep, it gets raw. Get ready to have your emotions tested, because you just can't imagine that this event of 918 people were murdered because of following this one guy. And we've heard about cult leaders and all sorts of different things in the past, but like I had never heard of a story like this, and to the effects and ramifications of what it is. And then the brave survivors who come forth to be a part of this documentary to talk about recounting their events, their eyewitnessing the events, and even with the footage and them being able to recall where they were at, what they were doing at the time, them barely surviving and getting out of Jonestown and happening to avoid these soldiers that was looking to shoot anybody who was moving, and getting away from the poison. Like it's a really wild story of survival. So, but yeah, check it out. It's on Hulu now. Jump in the comments, folks, for all the folks that have checked it out. Let me know your thoughts about this. Let me know your reactions to this one. And as always, stick around for more reviews here at Big Gold Belt Media very soon.
Idealistic.